What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for July the 25th of 2019. Of course, for those that are brand new to the program, this is a daily gaming news show that brings you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, packs it all up, and puts it in one tight, neat podcast for you to enjoy 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, live on twitch.tv/Samuel Adams. Then the show is taken down and put up on youtube.com/Samuel Adams Media, as well as podcast services around the world to keep you up to date and informed in video format, live format, podcast format. Soon there will be an audiobook. Just kidding. That sounds like a lot of work. But today, 74% of adults report being harassed while gaming online, according to a recent study. We'll talk more about that and what that could mean for the gaming industry overall. Then, Duolingo and Twitch are partnering up to help streamers teach new languages. A very cool story that I came across today when I was gathering some news that I did want to cover because I think there's a lot of potential there, and it's a really cool feel-good story, if you will. Then Tencent adds age-based playtime limits to League of Legends in China. PUBG Corp is apparently pretty tight with Epic Games, even after a lawsuit and a lot of public outrage from the company. Not from the company's followers or the players of PUBG whenever Fortnite came out. No, the company was just really upset about the fact that they finally had some competition. I love a sore loser. Then Nintendo doubles Super Mario Maker 2 levels, slots to 64 per player. Nintendo has announced a brand new Disney-themed Switch for Japan, and that, my friends, is the story lineup for today's show. Again, if you are brand new to the program, I do hope you enjoy what I bring to the table. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Jampack Report today for July 25th of 2019. First off, 74% of adults say they have been harassed while gaming online, according to a recent study. 74% of adults who play games online have experienced some form of harassment, according to a new report released today. The report, published Thursday by the century-old civil rights nonprofit organization Anti-Defamation League, offers some staggering statistics on the prevalence of trolling, threats, discrimination, and just plain rude name-calling in online gaming. Alongside a survey of over 1,000 people who play games, the ADL also looked at game publishers' moderation of those spaces and found them wanting. Quote, large-scale commercial games have these aspects of their platform that are totally unmoderated spaces, said Daniel Kelly, the Associate Director of ADL's Center for Technology and Society, to Kotaku. We know from places like 4chan or 8chan that unmoderated spaces become toxic. How toxic? Some of the numbers that came from the study conducted in April of this year are mind-boggling. 65% of the players surveyed experienced severe harassment, which includes physical threats, stalking, and sustained harassment while gaming online. 29% said that at some point they had been doxxed as a result of a game, which the study defines as a stranger publishing private information about them. About a third of LGBTQ players believed they were harassed because of their sexual orientation. A third of Black or African American people surveyed, as well as a quarter of Latin and Asian American people, say they think they were harassed because of their ethnicity. Women were the most harassed demographic, probably because women's voices can be identifying in games voice chats, with nearly 40% having reported harassment based on gender. The Anti-Defamation League decided to investigate problems of online gaming harassment after noticing the relative lack of strong data on it and similar organizations' reluctance to tackle the topic, Kelly said. There is a sense that there's a problem here. I'd read about it, but I hadn't talked to the community. Is this something that had been hyped up in the media and was not real? Another thing the ADL found was that not all games are created equal when it comes to harassment in their social spaces. Among the top games that the ADL found to foster harassment were Dota 2, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Overwatch, PUBG, and League of Legends. Dota 2 was the top game players said they had stopped playing because they didn't want to deal with others' rude antics. And while 80% of players said that they had at some point experienced positive social interactions in a game, with World of Warcraft, Minecraft, and NBA 2K being the leaders in happy moments, that number dropped to just 37% when talking about Riot's League of Legends. Kelly said that games haven't caught up with other online services in terms of their approach to dealing with harassment. Over the last decade, as social media has become a confluence of big business and mass culture, companies like Facebook and Twitter have begun outright denouncing hate speech and harassment on their platforms. There is an expectation that if you are on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and anything text-related, there is some form of moderation, Kelly said. I was looking at both Fortnite and League of Legends' current policies around harassment and looking at Twitter's in 2006, and they seem to be carbon copies of each other. While games also include voice chat as well as text, Kelly said that harassment occurred pretty much equally between both methods of communication. Of the game players surveyed, 35% admitted to doing the bad behavior themselves, whether it be simple trolling or calling other players offensive names. Perhaps the most shocking revelation from the report was its findings about how often gamers encounter extremist or white supremacist talk in games. Almost a quarter of online multiplayer gamers, 23%, have been invited to discuss or have heard others discussing the superiority of whites and inferiority of non-whites and or white identity, a home for the white race, the study reads. While this result does not necessarily imply that players were being recruited to join a white supremacist organization in any online game, the prevalence of expressions of white supremacy in online games suggests that this hateful ideology may be normalized in some game subcultures. The ADL suggested that the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, the organization that puts age ratings on video games in the U.S., reconsider its rating system. Kelly notes that while the ESRB looks at the nudity in a game or the specific types of violence, they don't take into account what players do online. They pass the ball on. What are the online interactions like? If you look at, for instance, Fortnite, that's T-rated, but 70% of folks are experiencing harassment according to our study, he said. You also need to look at stuff like, how is the reporting system? Does it happen in-game or out of the game? Gamers' humor can be a bit extreme. We tend to take it for granted that someone might think it's funny to type KYS or kill yourself in an online game for laughs. But even if the behavior is done in a joking manner, Kelly said it's important to put a spotlight on it. Games are mainstream, he said. It's important to call that out, and that is not normal. It is not acceptable to tell someone to kill yourself. There is a value in reflecting back to folks who may say this is normal, but a part of broader society is that a part of the values we want to enshrine in this growing medium. And so that's where the story ends for today, for the fact that 74% of adults report being harassed while gaming. And so whenever you're looking at why this is the case, why is harassment so prevalent in the modern gaming space, I think a lot of elements come together. Number one, gaming itself, the hobby of gaming, the passion for gaming, it's always been kind of a place that is safe for people of all walks of life to come and embrace. And that does include people that are hurting. That does include people that might have backwards morals. That does include people that have been ostracized from regular society. And so gaming has become a place for them to go whenever normal life won't necessarily line up with their lifestyles, their values, whatever it might be. And so you do have a lot of people that are mean. You do have a lot of people that have been pretty much outcast and are now taking out that anger on whoever they possibly can. There are a lot of angry individuals within the gaming space. I think we can all agree on that. Now, that being said, the demographic has changed greatly over the past few years as more people have become gamers, if you will, and taken up the hobby, taken up the passion, whatever you want to call it, and are becoming a big part of many of these online communities. And so now you're beginning to see this shift where people are paying attention to the fact that the gaming culture can be very hostile. Gaming culture can be very harsh and just ruthless, really, when it comes down to it. And so I think these studies are important because you do want to be able to go online and not be at risk of being, called names, not being denounced because of any of your characteristics, many of which may or may not be true because, again, you are essentially playing with somebody online. But I am 100% certain that there are changes that should be made to ensure that gaming online isn't a safe space, because I hate that term being thrown around, but that it is something that everybody can participate in and everybody can have an equal playing field when it comes to having a good time, when it comes to enjoying themselves playing an online game. That's the big key here. And so, according to a report from a very reputable source, 74% of adults have been harassed while gaming. Hopefully, these companies that are behind these games begin to take notice of this, begin to actually pay attention and say, hey, Some changes have to be made in some kind of way, but the bigger issue here is that it's very difficult to get a grasp on this. How do you exactly rein in the community of millions of people, you know, that may or may not be throwing around racial slurs, that may or may not be putting down other people? How do you exactly control what is happening within the space whenever it really is largely uncontrollable in some kind of way? But I suppose that's a problem not for me to deal with, but for somebody behind the scenes at many of these companies that are pumping out these online experiences for gamers to enjoy to figure out. But moving on to the next topic of the day, as we stream this show live on Twitch, Duolingo and Twitch help streamers teach new languages. Verified broadcasters will use Duolingo for lessons and beyond. You won't have to rely on canned videos if you want to learn a new language through online streams. Duolingo and Twitch are launching a Duolingo verified streamer program that will showcase broadcasters using their channels to teach new languages. Some of them might use Duolingo sessions in their streams, but others will promote the use of other languages in cooking, travel, and other real-world situations. They will also encourage you to practice your linguistic skills in chat. Every streamer in the program will be hosted on Duolingo's main Twitch channel as well as language-based sub-channels. They'll also have branded badges. The initial program will center around core languages like English, French, Arabic, Chinese, and Spanish, but it will expand to include more languages and more streamers. There are 12 named participants so far. They all know English, but are either learning or have mastered at least one other tongue. Some, like Kyrie, Kitty, and Taiki GG, I believe I said those names correctly, are conventional game streamers, while others like CJ Wright, I hate usernames so much, and Toasty202, I know that one, are focused on real-world experiences. You won't find straightforward educational channels, at least not yet, but this could provide motivational if traditional lessons aren't quite cutting it. And so, this is a very cool concept here. Of course, PSW in the chat says, I'd love to learn Japanese. Exactly. I love Duolingo, and I've messed around with it before because it is a fantastic platform to essentially jump in and at least try and learn a new language. You may not get very far if you are unmotivated or if you have other things going on like I did at the time. But it's a cool way to at least try on a pair of pants of a new language, if you will. But Twitch, I never connected this, is the perfect way to essentially mess around with a new language, especially when it comes to Twitch chat. And so if you reach out to Twitch streamers that either know a new language or are wanting to learn a new language, to be able to learn with a community, to be able to test your skills in Twitch chat by saying, hey chat, what does this sentence look, you know, like, it's a cool little concept, and it's a perfect match in my mind because of the fact that you can use all of these tools that Twitch already has to forward your skills in another language. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's one that could definitely be a big deal. And in a way, I kind of put this in a similar vein as Twitch Sings, where there's this karaoke game called Twitch Sings, and of course, karaoke and learning a new language, totally different concepts, but the skills and the tools there are the same. You are on a stream, you are showing off a way to use a platform in a completely and totally new direction that it never really was originally intended for. But to be able to see all of these languages, to be able to see all of these people coming together to help learn new languages, very cool, very unifying kind of concept. And this is one of the perfect examples of why I love the online space, because while we do have the main story of the day being 74% of adults experiencing harassment, you also have people coming together to learn new languages. And when you learn a new language, when you learn somebody else's native language, you begin to connect with them and you begin to really know them on a level that you didn't before. And so I think that becoming bilingual, or at least knowing more tongues, is something that can do no harm. It's all going in a positive direction. So hopefully this will continue to grow and expand. I would love to see this become a big part of what is possible on the online space, but also specifically on Twitch. I think it's a fantastic and very, very cool idea. However, let's talk more about PUBG, because Tencent is adding age-based playtime limits to League of Legends in China. I don't know why I said PUBG. There's no reason why I said PUBG, but, of course, let's talk about it. In the face of pressure from the Chinese government, Tencent and Riot Games have added age-based time limits to League of Legends in China, Polygon reports. Of course, this is a follow-up story because we've been talking about this for a couple of months now. Minors now get booted from the game after 2 hours of play, and the companies use China's national ID numbers, which are used to make accounts, to verify ages. Supposedly, the new rules are an attempt to curb gaming addiction. While the World Health Organization, WHO, officially recognizes gaming addiction, China has also talked of limiting gameplay as a way to save children's eyesight. As the LA Times points out, Chinese players of League of Legends, Fortnite, and World of Warcraft already have their playtime tracked by their national ID numbers, and since 2017, Tencent has restricted playtime to 1 hour for Honor of Kings, dubbed Strike of Kings in the West, for kids under 12. Tencent may see the new restrictions as a way to stave off government intervention. Had Riot Games not agreed to implement the time limits, it could have been cut off from the Chinese market altogether. But the changes have some privacy experts concerned about how far American firms will go to comply with China's tighter social controls. And this is, again, a follow-up story that we've been talking about for a while now, but age-based playtime restrictions in general. Let's talk about that idea and that concept outside of the fact that the Chinese government is involved. How do we feel about limiting playtime limits, or at least playtime times overall? I think it needs to be done at some point in the line. Now, 2 hours, that's a bit low for me, but considering my gaming habits growing up, I probably could have benefited from maybe somebody coming and saying, hey, maybe it's time to get off the Call of Duty. Maybe you've been playing Battlefield a bit too long. I probably could have benefited from that. I mean, whenever I was younger, I would go for 8 to 10 hours. It was a lot of time. Some people now are saying 8 to 10 hours, those are rookie numbers. You got to bump those numbers up. And I respect that. I get that. I feel for that. And at the end of the day, there is this concept of if I've bought the game and I'm playing the game, I should be able to play for as long as I want. And you are correct in that. But at the same time, kids kind of throw a different kind of perspective on things, really, whenever you're talking about what is healthy. Because eyesight is still in development. The Chinese government has a point for that one. If you are sitting very close to a screen for between 8 and 10 hours, you could end up having to wear glasses in your early 20s. I'm not going to point out any names. I'm just saying that I'm wearing glasses right now. But at the end of the day, the Chinese government, should they become involved in this kind of situation? And I suppose that considering it is China, there are no surprises here. But to have government intervention, pretty much monitoring how the citizens spend their time, that sounds a little iffy to me. I'm not sure about that one. It sounds like that could be potentially a bit of an infringement on freedom, but hey, that's not the United States, that is China, so there are different expectations, different limitations, etc., etc. Now, if you do want to get around that, of course, there are many ways to forego that, but whenever you are signing up for a regular Chinese account in League of Legends, it looks like you are going to be restricted to just a couple of hours, depending on your age. But again, as long as they aren't doing it across the board for those that are adults, I kind of understand that. Whenever you do sign up for a children's account for the PlayStation Network, there are limitations. When you sign up for a kid's account on pretty much anything, there is a limitation. But who really does that in the United States? I don't know what the situation is in China, but I've had an adult PlayStation Network account for the better part of the past 10 years. And so, you know, that kind of shifts things around a bit. However, I did want to let you guys know that those age-based playtime limits are in fact coming to League of Legends in China. And that is something that is very interesting. 2 years after a lawsuit, PUBG Corp says it's okay with Fortnite's Epic Games now. They are one of our best partners. We talk to them all the time. Okay, let's talk more about this. The relationship between Fortnite developer and publisher Epic Games and PUBG developer PUBG Corp was believed to be somewhat fractious given the two games' competition, not to mention PUBG Corp's attempted suing of Epic less than 2 years ago. However, PUBG Corp studio director Brian Corrigan has now claimed that it couldn't be further from the truth. He told PC Games Inn, "People have this idea that there's some animosity or something with Epic, but they are one of our best partners. We talk to them all the time." The relationship between the two companies is complicated. PUBG Corp filed a lawsuit against Epic back in 2017, shortly after proclaiming its growing concerns regarding the similarities between Battle Royale mode and Epic Games' newly revealed Fortnite and PUBG. The illegal case was later dropped. PUBG Corp's parent company Bluehole has an ongoing licensing agreement with Epic for the latter's Unreal Engine development tool, which PUBG uses. In addition, both companies are part-owned by the same corporation, Tencent. While Epic openly cited PUBG as a key inspiration behind its BR mode, the latter has since borrowed ideas from Fortnite, which has gone on to be incredibly successful. Fortnite popularized the Seasons and Battle Pass format of updates, for example, and PUBG has just begun its 4th season. Now, this was a very interesting story from back whenever the games were first beginning to kind of come into their own, because again, Fortnite based largely on PUBG. That is, of course, pretty much the bread and butter of what the game has become over the past few years. Instead of focusing on the Save the World mode, which Fortnite is basically supposed to be, we now have this focus on BR, which is basically something they threw together in just a couple of months. But the time period that Fortnite Battle Royale came around was incredibly unique in the overall sense because PUBG was rising to the top. That summer before Fortnite hit was all PUBG all the time. I put 100 hours plus into that game, and then when Fortnite began to get into the Battle Royale space, things changed, things flipped, and Fortnite became a legit competitor. Now we see where things have gone. Fortnite is times and times bigger than PUBG, all because of the inspiration they took from the company originally, which, again, up in the air as to whether or not they should have been sued. I say nay, because you can't really, it's like copywriting the term React, as we saw the Fine Bros, I believe, do a couple of years back. It simply doesn't work. But I did want to follow up and say PUBG Corp says it's okay with Fortnite's Epic Games now. I feel like that's more out of force than out of compliance, just because, again, I'm sure they aren't too happy about not being able to get some of that sweet, sweet Fortnite cash. Although, I mean, whenever the tide comes in, all boats rise, as the phrase goes. So with more focus on Battle Royale, we have seen the rise of many Battle Royale games and modes in a lot of various games, not just Fortnite and PUBG. So hey, what can you do? It's more of a giant industry-wide movement rather than just the popularization of one specific game. However, you know what doesn't have a Battle Royale mode? Technically, I mean, there is one, but it's not in the game itself. Super Mario Maker 2. They've officially doubled the level slots to 64 from 32. That's the entire story right there, but we're going to go ahead and read it regardless. If you are a Mario Maker aficionado, you are already aware that there is a limit on how many levels you can upload to the game servers. This means that once you hit the level cap, you have to start deleting levels off of the servers to upload more. They could be well-loved levels that have tons of plays and likes and comments, but that would just disappear forever in favor of a 33rd level. Today, Nintendo doubled that cap to 64, so you can put that decision off for twice as long. When you boot up Super Mario Maker 2 today, the news section has a message from Nintendo informing you of this change. The maximum number of courses you can upload has increased from 32 to 64 courses, the message says. We plan to raise the course upload limit one more time. Please continue to enjoy Super Mario Maker 2. They didn't say what the next upload cap would be, but an even 100 would make some sense. As someone that creates a lot of levels, watching them tick down to 32 has been pretty stressful and demotivating to actually create. While there is still a cap, at least it's a little bit better. Super Mario Maker 2 is, of course, available for the Nintendo Switch now, but cool little change here. Of course, the creation portion of Super Mario Maker 2 is a pretty much massive part of the game, the biggest part of the game, if you will. There is a story mode, but at the same time, to be able to create your own levels is the idea behind Super Mario Maker. The maker portion of the title, that's pretty much what that is. So to be able to have 64 levels is a bit comforting, but I would love to see it doubled again to, what would that be, 128? That sounds like a really good number, and of course that pretty much goes with the doubling kind of trend, but I say you're probably going to get something closer to around the even 100 as the author does predict. That sounds very much so Nintendo-esque, but I suppose we will have to wait and see. As for me, whenever it comes to the games that require you or imply that you should make something, I've never really been a big fan of because that's just not my cup of tea. I love the idea of Dreams on PS4, but the fact that I have to make all of that stuff, oh god, that sounds so difficult. That sounds very overbearing. But at the same time, it's something that is worth doing if you are into the creation side of that specific, game style, that game type, if you will. But at the same time, if you do play Super Mario Maker 2, then congratulations, you now have 64 levels to play around with. But I did want to add a story actually today, because there was a news report that I forgot to actually include in today's show that I did want to cover, and that is, speaking of Media Molecule and games where you create things, Media Molecule wants to pay small teams to make games for Dreams. It's the big friendly game dev. We have already seen incredible examples of what people can make in Dreams, the new PS4 game by Little Big Planet studio Media Molecule. Someone remade the Final Fantasy VII for goodness sake, but Dreams Editor is a very powerful tool. Just imagine what a whole experienced team could do with it. Snap Media Molecule has imagined the same thing and gone one step further, advertising for outsourced, contracted small team help to make content for Dreams. Content creators teams, the job board reads. Some of the exciting opportunities we have require the skills of a small professional development team. Are you a small dev team looking to collaborate on something larger or looking for a small project to help fund your next gig? This isn't just normal outsourcing. It is much more about finding teams that want to collaborate with us on content for dreams. We are a little light on requirements as this is an exploratory call out, but needless to say, experience with creating in dreams is required. Applications will open shortly. Dreams is in early access at the moment with a launch planned for some point later this year. When Dreams arrives, it will have a full Media Molecule built campaign to play, but at the moment it does not. There are, however, smaller Media Molecule games that you can play, bolstered by an ever-swelling sea of community-made games. My, what a disgustingly talented lot you are. Of course, we've seen some incredible stuff. I mean, we saw the Leviathan axe from God of War remade in Media Molecule's Dreams. The game itself is gorgeous. The idea behind it is phenomenal. Again, right now in its early access form, it is pretty much just a blank canvas and you can do with it what you will. But the game has been in development for, it feels like 10 years at this point. Of course, not literally 10 years, but it has been in the ringer for quite some time. However, what's up with this big friendly game dev reaching out to smaller teams to create stuff? I think that they're trying to pad the offering for Dreams. Of course, as the article does say, there is going to be a full fleshed out campaign in the final version of Dreams, but as it stands today, it does need more content, and after that campaign is finished in the final version of the game, it is going to need something to keep people coming back time and time again, and that's where you are going to run into some issues, because who knows how long the community can keep up creating cool stuff, and also the depth of those experiences is always kind of hit or miss. Like, you can't really just screw around with the Leviathan axe for more than 10 minutes or so before you get kind of bored, so there have to be genuine fleshed out games within the games themselves. And of course, we've seen this so far with people remaking like the Silent Hill playable trailer in Dreams. We've seen it, as they said, with Final Fantasy VII. Plenty of stuff going on in the world of Dreams, but to have small dev teams specifically creating experiences for the overall game itself, I think is a pretty good move that is going to ensure more people are around to play stuff in the world of Dreams for many months to come after its release. But moving on to the final story of the day, if you don't care about Dreams and you don't care about PlayStation 4, you might want a Nintendo Switch, and if you like Disney, then guess what? Japan has the piece of hardware for you. Nintendo announces a Disney-themed Switch for Japan, and guess what? It has ears. After sticking with the same hardware for what felt like forever, Nintendo has picked up the pace considerably for its release schedule of Switch variants. The handheld-only Switch Lite was unveiled a couple of weeks ago. A new model with better battery life is coming next month, and we also saw the first new Joy-Con colors in a while last week. Now it's Disney time. Ooh. Nintendo has announced a new Switch bundle for Japan that ties into the popular Disney Sum Sum franchise. A new game called Sum Sum Festival is coming out on October the 10th and includes Switch-exclusive minigames as well as the ability to play a regular mobile-style game of Sum Sum by holding the Switch vertically. The Switch hardware bundle features a patterned dock with Sum Sum characters and the logo, while the included pink and purple Joy-Cons are similarly decorated. The Switch itself is the updated, longer-lasting model and has pink characters on the back. Also, the home button has ears. And that's pretty much the idea behind it. There's the little snapshot, if you will, of it. Of course, the home button does have the Mickey Mouse ears. There's the back, or at least one half of the back of a Nintendo Switch Disney Edition from Japan. The Sum Sum Festival bundle will be released in Japan on October the 10th and will sell for 36,080 yen, or about $333. No word on a release elsewhere in the world as of yet. But of course, variations are always cool, for the hardware that any company pumps out. I love special edition PlayStation 4s. I love special edition Xbox Ones and Xbox 360s and PS3. I love the console variations. In fact, if I'm ever bored and I have some time to kill, I will go on YouTube and check out unboxings of special editions of consoles, just because I like to see the variations. Yes, they play the exact same games. Sometimes they do something a bit different, like the Xbox One that is from Taco Bell, that whenever you push the power button, you get the Taco Bell bell ring. I love that kind of... I love it. It's fantastic. But with the Disney-themed Switch, if this thing came to the West, and this thing came to other parts of the world in general, oh my gosh, do you know how quickly it would sell out? Because again, Disney getting into the gaming space more and more, as we talked about on yesterday's episode of the Jampack Report, to be able to have a Disney-themed Nintendo Switch is perfect. It's perfection. It's a fantastic idea, and it's one that I think should definitely be taken advantage of. Now, as for me, I would never purchase this because, number one, not a big Disney guy. Number two, not really into a pink and purple Joy-Con combo for my Nintendo Switch. But I definitely could see this being a big hit. And also, if you just took the Disney idea and applied it to a Nintendo Switch Lite, that is a kid's dream. That is the equivalent of a modern-day SpongeBob SquarePants Game Boy Advance SP. That just simply makes sense. Needs to happen. It does, in fact, need to happen. But as for today, that wraps up the Jampack report. Again, for July 25th of 2019. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's program. And if you did, or you are new to the show, be sure to subscribe on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia. Add it to your podcast feed, which can all be found via links on anchor.fm/SamuelAdams. Or if you are watching live in the Twitch chat, I appreciate you being here. But the show, again, is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, on twitch.tv/SamuelAdams. If you do want to catch the show. But until the next one, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in to the Jampack Report, and peace.